Um, I it just got a button popped up there. I don't know if that everybody can see that. I think maybe I was the only one that can see that. Anyway, so I'm originally from Colorado, and I have always been like a healthy eater. That's what I like. I don't like junk food necessarily. I don't do fast food hardly ever. And I own a med spa, so I'm really focused on all the right things. And so when I went in for my annual OBGYN visit the day after, or actually started the day before Thanksgiving, my doctor said, well, we're going to take a closer look at this, when she discovered a lump on my left breast. So 2 hours later, I have had the mammogram, the ultrasound, all of the stuff, and the radiologist, this huge guy, like this gorilla guy, ducks under the door to come in, and he sits down and he does this whole thing, crossing his hands and the knees and the whole thing, and he looks at me, and it's just like, I can't escape from this guy. It was like really scary. And he just like, Mrs. Spellman, you have cancer. And I'm like, I was not prepared for that. I didn't have like this little script of anything, how I was going to respond. I didn't even know what I was going to do. So it kind of continued. And he says, you have a 4.9 by 4.8 centimeter tumor. The beams could not even penetrate the tumor. I am sure it's malignant. And I just really didn't even know what to do or say. And I don't know what kind of response he was expecting. I don't know if he thought I was going to jump off the table and start knocking things over or screaming or crying. Really, I don't know what he was expecting, and I didn't know what to do. And so I just kind of absorbed it up for a few minutes, and then I just asked him, so what do we do next? And he says, well, we've got you scheduled for a biopsy on Monday. I'm like, excuse me, didn't you just say that it was malignant? You're sure it's malignant? Well, we have to do biopsies. And my mind just kind of didn't want to even think about that, but you got to do that for insurance and yada yada yada. The biopsies were horrible. They took 9 biopsies from my left breast, and I don't respond at all to the topical pain relievers or to the numbing shots, nothing. So I'm a typical redhead, and so I felt that whole thing, it was just absolutely horrible and brings back bad memories. I was in recovery for 45 minutes afterwards. Anyway, so the day after Thanksgiving, of course, we get the results back, and he's telling me that I had to go back in, and stage 4 cancer is what I was told. And right away, they already had me scheduled to do chemotherapy and radiation. Had this brief little meeting with the radiologist, and he's telling me, yep, we're going to be doing yada yada yada. I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. Nobody gets to tell me what I'm going to do with my body. And I knew enough about chemotherapy and radiation to know I didn't want to do it. And yet I didn't know what I did want to do. And so it was a matter of trying to kind of put things on a back burner, except it was horrible. I didn't even have a back burner at that point. I mean, my mind was just going through these weird gyrations, and everything got clouded. And so I just got on the phone and got on the computer, and I started with people inside the United States, looking for people who offered a homeopathic option. And I interviewed at least 15 places. I interviewed about 5 more that within the first couple of sentences, it was a waste of time, but 15 that were pretty in-depth. And as soon as I got to the question that was, what do you do for immune support? Are you going to be including any kind of vitamin C therapy, any bioflavonoids? Check. They didn't know what I was talking about, or we'll call you back, or I suddenly got put on hold. It just was weird and frustrating. And then about that time, I had a couple of different people tell me, well, you should go to Mexico. And one person specifically said you should go to Tijuana. And I'm like, Tijuana? Are you kidding me? Tijuana?
That's everyone's response always.
I'm like, No, that would not be safe. Number one, that would not be clean. Number two, and all these images in my mind, that was like an immediate shutdown. But then it was like this little God thing, tapping me on the shoulder or tapping me on the head or kicking me in the butt or something. I started looking into them, but I was more looking into reviews. And it was so crazy. I found all these incredible reviews. One of them was this gal who had ended up in a wheelchair because of the treatments, chemo and radiation. And then she went to Tijuana, and she's walking and living a full life now. And I'm thinking, this is interesting. So I communicated back and forth with her and at least 20 other people. And they went to different locations, and but all in Tijuana. So I'm really, really, really spending like day and night researching all these places. Somewhere in there along the line, I filled out something for the Heal Navigator. I don't even really know when or why or how. But so when Peyton, when you called me that day, remember, I was like, what are you trying to sell me?
Yes, everyone. I'm like, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just trying to help. I'm not a good salesman.
So perfect. It was so perfect. It was the perfect timing because I had it, limited. I had it kind of narrowed down to 5, but mainly 3. And I didn't really know all of the little variables with all of them. And I remember you said, well, I can help you, comparing them all. And so we started going down the checklist. And I remember one of them, and that was one of my top 3, when you told me that they spent about 25% of the time in group therapy for people who have mental, issues, or they're depressed or whatever. And I'm like, no, that is not me. I've never been depressed in my life. And so that was not gonna fit the bill. And then you said, have you checked into the San Diego clinic? And I remember immediately thinking, okay, she really doesn't know what she's talking about. San Diego, I can't go to San Diego because they're in the United States. And that was just so crazy. That whole story, how Dr. Munoz purchased this incredible clinic, and they were 500 yards inside Tijuana, but he kept the original name and all that stuff, which I learned from him. I guess that story.
Right.
But it sounded like maybe somebody I should call. And so I called him and talked with Judy, who is an angel on earth. I mean, my gosh, I love her so much. Talked with Judy, and to now, I mean, I still talk to her all the time, and I'll call, hello, Rhonda, and it's just this beautiful, beautiful face that I, have in my mind. So talked with her and told her that I was looking for a second opinion. And so she scheduled a consultation with Dr. Munoz. And so we scheduled this consultation. I thought it was going to be like about a half an hour, and Dr. Munoz and I ended up talking for an hour and a half, and I had 44 questions lined up by that time, and just for a lot that had evolved and developed after talking to all these other places, plus the ones I was really concerned about. But one of them, and this was the one that maybe was the turning point for me. One of them was the SUV numbers from my PET scan. And because nobody would tell me what those meant, and I couldn't find them anywhere. I couldn't find the answers anywhere. So I told him, and this is like question number 20, and so I said, so tell me, what are SUV numbers? What does that mean? And he says, that's a good question. He says, so when you have a tumor, and at that point I had the big one in my left breast, and I had a smaller one in my chest, and an even smaller one in my right lung. And they and because I had both breasts removed by that time, I just had numbers on the one in my chest and the one in my lung, and they were wanting to biopsy both of those. After the first horrible experience, biopsies were the last thing I wanted to do. And so he told me, he says from 0 to 299, and I'm writing this down, definitely benign. And from 300 to 499, beginning stages of cancer. And having any numbers at all is a concern, but from 300 to 499 is when you need to start looking at this. And it says from 499 from 500 to 699 is a big deal. You need to be looking at this like right now. You need to be on this and looking at this, and anything over 700 is maybe not even able to be treated, and it's in, serious condition. And I said, well, it's interesting. I said, both of my SUV numbers are well under 300. I said, so what should I do? What do you think I should do? He says, well, you do not need to have them biopsied, in my opinion, because we already know they're benign. But because they're there, we definitely need to, be aware and look at what kind of treatments we need to do, because they're going to get worse. That is how cancer works. And then, we just kind of went on. I said, so what should I do now? And what will I do if I come to see you? And he spent an incredible amount of time. He reviewed all of my PET scans, or my one PET scan, but all of my other x-rays. He reviewed everything and wrote back to me and gave me a very clear list of supplements I should be taking, gave me an outline of what the treatment plan would be at his clinic, and just made me feel so safe. And we had multiple phone calls. And by the way, I never got a bill for any of these calls. And that speaks a lot to me. That really speaks highly to me. But anyway, we're developing this relationship. And so I decided to go. Unfortunately, had a big bad situation happen. So from before I could go over there. So with my double mastectomy, I opted to have the reconstruction implants, and right about the time I'm getting ready to go to Mexico, I developed a really awful cellulitis infection, and it was horrible. It was horrible, and I ended up with a PICC line and having to do the injections through the PICC line for 6 weeks, and the worst part about all of that is when I woke up one morning and had this red, my right breast, which wasn't even the cancerous one, was red and purple and warm and not even that painful yet. I went into the emergency. Well, I called the nurse and I said, is this something concerning? She's like, get up here within 2 hours of when you noticed it. I'm like, oh. So we were on our way in minutes. We get up there and it was just a horrible mess. And they put me on a antibiotic that I reacted to and had what's called red man syndrome, and freaked the nurse out worse than me. And she was hysterical and didn't know what to do. And I ended up in the hospital, and I contacted, just text messaged Dr. Judy, first Judy, and then she referred it to Dr. Munoz. And I said, this is going on. What the heck do you think? And he says, oh, they need to put you on IV meds. You need to be on IV meds right now. And so I conveyed that message to my oncologist the next day, because they put me in the hospital, and he's like, oh, no doctor's going to tell me what to do. And I'm like,
Yes.
Oh, and I said, well, he wasn't like telling you what to do. It was just a suggestion. Oh, well, okay, that's acceptable. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, he is an oncologist, right? He's an immunologist and an oncologist. And he's like, So anyway, my oncologist here switches me to a different medication, and sends me home. And so I go a whole week, and I'm working all day because I had no idea I shouldn't have been working and slowing down. I'm working like 10 hours a day at my clinic. And the next Saturday, all of a sudden, the pain hits me like a sledgehammer, and it was unbelievable. And I have a really high tolerance to pain, and end up back in the hospital. And that's when they decided to do the IV meds, which ended up being this the PICC line. So what is this really going to be like when we get there? We land in San Diego, and Gus, who is a great big teddy bear, picks us up at the airport, drives me straight to my little apartment. And my mother, who is an angel on this earth, my mother went with me, thank God, because I would not have been able to do it by myself because of everything that happened. So we get there in this beautiful and the next day Gus comes and picks us up, and we arrive at this incredibly beautiful, awesome, like you could eat off the floor, clean clinic. And Malucha, um, I can't remember everybody's names right now just because everything's going through my head, but 3 sisters of Dr. Munoz work there, and they're incredible. They're absolutely incredible. Dr. Munoz, Dr. Mancia, everybody in the clinic, and things began. And we're doing the IV infusions, and it was just a whole new thing. I mean, I wasn't sick. I wasn't, losing my hair, wasn't puking my guts out like my friends back here doing chemo. And every day, Monday through Friday, I'm doing the IV infusions. They're doing blood tests. They're doing all these things. About 3 weeks into everything, the cellulitis infection comes back. And it was that same kind of warm, red, painful, and I was really kind of freaked out. And they have Dr. Rivera does the ultrasounds right there in the clinic. And so he does the ultrasound and immediately says, these have got to come out no more than 10 days. So that's a big deal. And because this is technically like an emergency, because he said, this is going to turn septic. And that's what they had told me back home, that they didn't want to do anything with the cellulitis because it would be a septic situation if they try to go with a needle from the outside to the inside to remove all this fluid buildup. But so because it's technically an emergency situation, my mother and I and Gus takes us to San Diego to have what I'm thinking is going to be this emergency surgery. Spent 7 hours in the emergency room, and that was fun. Met a guy who had a spaceship living inside his body, among other things, but that was it was fun. And they tell me, well, we're going to put you in a room, and then they have this doctor come and meet with me. And he says, you've definitely got a problem. You've got a lot of fluid buildup. Your body has created a sac around the reconstruction implant, and these have got to come out. Your body is full of infection. And I had been so sick. And he says, so I'm going to have you talk with the nurse to get you scheduled. Well, I'm like thinking, okay, we're going to do this tomorrow. No. We meet with the nurse, and she's okay. She says, and she's flipping through the thing. We can schedule you for your consultation with the surgeon on June 8th.
Oh my gosh. Like, what do I do?
Yeah, I was just like going cross-eyed. I'm like, are you kidding me? No.
Yeah.
Because that's like not even conceivable. And I told her, I said, no, are you kidding me? Anyway, so long story short, I called Dr. Munoz and I said, this is the deal. And he says, come back home, Tijuana.
Yeah.
He says, I'm on the phone with Dr. Zavala. And Dr. Zavala, we had already met with the day before. And I forgot about that part. And he's the most incredible surgeon alive. And he confirmed what Dr. Rivera said, that, these have got to come out. There's the fluid base and yada, yada. So, so Dr. Munoz is on the phone with Dr. Zavala explaining the situation. Gus comes back and gets us the next morning. And here we are on a Thursday afternoon, and somehow or the other, I don't know how, Dr. Zavala works me in at 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. And so removed both of the implants, and I'm like suddenly fine. I'm no pain, no nothing. I'm feeling great. I've got my thumbs up in the hospital. Dr. Mancia is coming to see me twice a day. So Saturday morning, he picks me up, takes me to the hospital. It's just incredible. Sunday night, Dr. Mancia, when he came to pick me up, I was starting to have like a weird kind of pain, and just on the right side. And he's like, hang in there. I'll come back tomorrow to pick you up, to take you home. Well, the pain got so unbelievably bad Sunday night. I told him, I said, at the hospital, give me the strongest thing you have. And I'm pretty sure they gave me fentanyl. And so pretty much put me to sleep. Well, Monday morning, when Dr. Mancia came to pick me up again, I explained to him, it was like blinding pain. It was unbelievable. And so he starts unwrapping everything to see what the heck was going on. gets things unwrapped. And I mean, and I speak Spanish, not as good, not fluent, but he's like, he started just hollering at these nurses, and they are jumping and moving. And he starts, and my drainage line, he takes that drainage tube and he starts pushing, and because it was swollen from the center of my chest all the way around through my shoulder blade in the back, and he pushed out 450 milliliters of fluid. It was so painful. It was so horrible. And then he told me, you're gonna need to stay, another day. And was draining and draining, but it was everything. And I was cancer free, 100% cancer free, no activity of any kind anywhere. And so we just kept with the plan. And, I had to do a lot more recovery, unfortunately, because of the surgery. But I showed up there on April, started my treatment on April 17th, stage 4 cancer. Doctors here telling me I had 18 months if I did they're just going to give you a bunch of vitamins over there plan, or up to 5 years if I did the chemo radiation, to cancer free and feeling amazing. Came home on June 1st, and I've been doing like literally fabulous ever since then. That was a short answer.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. No, it's such a journey. So whenever you were at the facility, like what types of treatments was like Dr. Munoz doing for you? Like I know the treatment plans because I work with it, but for people though that, have never talked to Dr. Munoz, can you give like a brief overview of like what a day in the clinic was looking like for you, what infusions you were getting, what types of treatments he discussed with you? He works specifically with those autologous vaccines, so you can kind of go a little bit into, if you want to, about those two as well.
Sure. So every Monday they would do a blood draw, and also the very first, I think the first day, maybe the second day, they sent me home with this big cup to get all my urine for like that 24-hour period, and they made a quote unquote vaccine with urine as my base, and another one with my blood as a base ingredient, and the big vials, the big bags. So I was doing 8 every day, and they were just going into my arm. But because I have these little bitty baby needles and my veins kept collapsing or blowing, they ended up putting a port. So I have a port in, and so that would last from about 8:30 till 12 or 1 every day with the bags. And the supplement routine, I would take handfuls literally every day. And that was kind of basically it. Easy peasy, no pain with any of that other than, the needle thing. But I still do 2 shots a day, and I was a needle phobe before, but I do two shots, 1 on each side of my stomach every day, and I do up to 3 more during the week. No, up to 4 more, I guess, every week. That is continuing to keep me cancer free. And I do the supplements. Oh, another thing I do, this, I have it sitting here just to show. This is my what I call my immune juice. And I can share with the recipe for that. It's pineapple juice, grapefruit juice, turmeric root, lemon juice, pinch of pepper. I gave Peyton that recipe, and it's so good. And it's immune boosting. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's on. And another thing I do, and I thought I'd keep that, as I like this. I really, really like this. This is Rise coffee. I drink that every day. It's all mushrooms, and I'm not trying to advocate, I guess I kind of am, but love those. But I eat healthy still, but I did before. Other than that, that's basically it. I hope I answered all that you wanted.
No, you did. And I'm going to kind of touch base on it too. So, with San Diego Clinic, they do specialize in like the autologous therapies, which is just a fancy word of saying derived from your own body. As she said, they take like your blood and urine and they make these like vaccines with them, not like the CVAX, but it's basically just training your immune system to attack the cancer cell. So, most commonly, Mexico is known for the dendritic cell vaccine. That's one. We have dendritic cells that naturally occur in our body. And then they have NK cell, LAK cell. I believe Dr. Munoz does like 4 or 5 of these. He actually offers like a lot more than other facilities do. And I believe like he has his own lab or works directly with a lab. So that's why he's able to make them so quickly. So this is a big part of his regimen. And then also like the IV treatments, as Rhonda mentioned, that you get in office. And then what's special about his clinic is he'll actually send you home with the IVs to continue doing at home. No other facility I know does that. And so I always tell people, like, if you're wanting to go to a facility and have like a very in-depth treatment plan, because generally, I don't know how yours was, but generally you do like 4 weeks there plus 8 to 12 weeks at home initially of like the treatment plan. So when you go home, you'll continue a very similar treatment plan as you were getting in office, like IPT, the vitamin C, vitamin D and K3, B17, silominicin, albiam solution, which is a DMSO, hydrogen peroxide mixture, things like that, that you'll get to continue doing at home. So just to kind of like briefly touch on people that might be curious about what types of therapies that he does offer there. Whenever you were kind of backtracking to your initial story, whenever you were in standard of care, like talking to your oncologist, what treatments did they offer for you? Like what was like their go-tos for you? Like if you would have continued down the standard of care path?
Yeah, back here in Iowa.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, well, they were recommending the chemo and the radiation, but I did not ever do any of that. I had no interest whatsoever. And when Dr. Munoz gave me his plan of all of the IV infusions and everything that he was recommending, I showed that to my oncologist. And yeah, his immediate comment is, "Oh, that's just a bunch of vitamins. That's not going to help you." And then when I got back after the 7 weeks, he wanted to do this full battery of blood tests. In fact, it was kind of interesting because the nurse, when she got the order from the doctor, she looked at the other nurse there. She says, "What is this one?" And the girl's like, "Oh, that's a really what is it? Really in-depth cancer what's the word? Marker or something like that." I mean, he was doing everything that he could to try and find, something, and everything came back 100% clear and negative. And his comment to that was, "At least they didn't do anything to hurt you." But he couldn't bring himself to say, "Oh, praise God, I'm so happy that you can," which is, I still love him. He's still a great guy, but I go in every 3 months, and everything since May 13th, when it was all clear there in Tijuana, every single test that I've had since then has been 100% clear. It was amazing. And I did go back and see Dr. Munoz in September, and my son went with me, and it was a totally different experience than when my mother and I went, because I was, feeling so sick and I was sleeping all the time. My son and I, we were able to really enjoy Tijuana. We were able to walk down on the pier and put our feet in the water and watch the dolphins, and met incredible people. We met angels. We met true angels over there. It just every day. In fact, can I tell like just a real quick little thing that's amazing?
Go ahead, share.
And actually this happened with my mom.
Skeptical of going to Tijuana, like
Yep.
That's always, and I'm like, I love going to Tijuana. People are like, what?
I could live there. I could move over there. Yep, I love it. Actually, it was with my mom and I that this happened. On kind of towards the end of our 7-week little vacation over there, my mom and I, we walked from where we were at. We walked over to Walmart to get more suitcases, because I was going to have to bring back all of these bags of vitamins. 183 pounds. So like, isn't that insane? Which you get to bring back free. That you don't the airlines do not charge you for medicine, which is a really, really awesome thing.
I
So
didn't
that
know
was
that.
cool. But we are coming back. Yep, good thing to know. And Dr. Mancia or Dr. Munoz, one of the two of them, they're the ones that told me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known either. But my mom and I, we're walking back with these purple suitcases, because purple is my favorite color. And this really amazing man, really, really dark, really just, a very typical Mexican, but like a very dark Mexican man. We're on the sidewalk, and I didn't even see where he came from, but he just kind of like steps like right in front of us, and like I would have ran into him if I didn't stop. And he looks at me, and he, in perfect English, he said, "So do you live around here?" And I answered him in Spanish. I don't, because I said, "Yo estoy aquí solamente temporado." I'm only here temporarily. And then again, in perfect English, he said, "Are you do you have cancer?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And I said, I'm here for treatments." And then he just put his hand up like right in front of my face. And then with the other hand, he went, "No, you are completely healed." And I was like, okay. But what was weird, but I forgot to mention, he had this dog, about like maybe a 2 or 3 pound little. When we had to find that little dog, just to kind of like jumped up on my leg, and was like acting like he was my dog. And I picked him up, and that little dog just licking me all over the face, and like one of my little dogs at home. And after that guy said, "No, you are fully healed," then he started walking. He just started walking away, and the little dog wanted down by then. And I looked at him, and I'm like, "Thank you." And he goes, "Vayas con Dios," go with God. And like that, he was gone. It's like, it was, and that's not the
You
only
gave me
time that
chicken
happened.
skin.
Something like that, many times.
That's
Isn't it so cool? Just angels everywhere, but it was so beautiful. Everything beautiful. Everything was clean. Everything was wonderful. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I would go there again. I'm going back in March.
I was gonna say,
And hopefully Dr.
follow
Munoz
up.
and I are going to be talking business. Yeah. I'm hoping to start assisting him with treatments at my clinic, so that'll be fun.
Oh, good. Yeah,
But
I know.
there's nothing to be afraid of. We did have a really scary time when we went to San Diego, though. Really scary, because we're in the oh my gosh. So we're in, not just because of the guy with the spaceship living inside his body, and that was like weird stuff there in in the waiting room. But when they were finally done, and after the nurse says, "Oh, we're going to schedule you for June, but here's your prescription," we had to walk from the hospital about 6 blocks to go to the pharmacy, because the hospital pharmacy is closed by that time, to the G and not G and whichever one it was called. I can't think the acronym letters, to get the prescription. And by the time we were able to get the prescription, it's pretty dark outside. But it was kind of scary even on the way there, where we crossed the street a couple of times, because they were like really, really some creepy homeless people, that literally made me, kind of nervous. But coming back out, starting to get dark, there was no way in the world I was going to walk. And we had nothing like that in Tijuana. Nothing scary.
I've said that before, and people kind of looked at me crazy, but whenever I first started going to TJ, I stayed in downtown San Diego. Now that I go, actually, this past time, I stayed in La Jolla and Point Loma, Ocean Beach. That was very nice. I felt safe walking around out there by myself. I'm 30 years old, a woman.
Right.
So like I kind of get a little nervous when traveling alone, but I felt safe there. But in downtown, I stayed like the gas lamp district, like the hub downtown directly. I felt completely unsafe. I didn't go out by myself during the night. And Tijuana, Dee and I walk around and we go grab a bite to eat. And, we go to like the shopping malls, because there's Plaza Rio down there that we like going to. And it's it's fairly comfortable in my opinion. We actually stayed in the Cacho area this past time. And so I feel like it's like the millennial part of Tijuana. There's a lot of like little coffee shops and eateries, and just the vibe is really nice. Like we would do our calls in the morning, like early morning, like 6:30 over there, because it's like, you know, technically 8:30 my time here.
Mhm.
And we would go grab like a coffee or whatever, and then go to the facilities during the daytime and hit up like 2 facilities that we were doing this past time. And I felt fairly safe. Just in San Diego area, I did not feel safe in the downtown. So I had an experience with I call them gypsies, with a gypsy.
Yep.
So yeah. I mean, I'm always like love and light, you know, like, hi,
Yeah,
how are
me too.
you? Let me walk a little faster.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I agree. So you mentioned that you're going back in March. So does Dr. Munoz have you going back like every, like once a year now, every 9 months? Like, how's that schedule going for you?
Well, so in March, it's technically a business meeting, and we will be talking about how we're going to, yeah, you know, work together, and we're just barely starting, you know, with those thoughts and plans. But the idea is that people will go to see him for a 1, 2, or 3 week, you know, visit, and then they'll be able to come to my clinic, and we'll be able to help them with the IV infusions, because not everybody is going to be able to do those infusions by themselves. It is a big deal. It is really a big deal. And the port needle, literally no one will put my port needle in for me here. No hospital, no doctor's office. My husband unfortunately can't do it. He was able to a couple of times, but he kind of missed, not kind of missed, totally missed one. And we didn't realize that we had missed as bad as it was, because we didn't flush it. It was like one of those, you're in a hurry and you know, you got to flush it every time. And about 5 minutes into it, you know, it was going into my muscle and not into my vein. Oh man, 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 was that painful and awful. And Dr. Munoz, and I called Dr. Munoz, I'm like, oh, what do we do? He's like, oh, you know, so I had to wait 48 hours to do anything. And then but he was so on it. He's like, just, you know, you don't
I
need
know
to go
he
to the
probably
hospital, because I thought I was gonna have
FaceTimes
to go to the
people a
hospital.
lot, because
Yep.
not everyone gets the port. Some actually will get like a pick line. And so
Yep.
they're like hooking like tube up to tube, but I guess they didn't want, with already a lot of situations going on with you, they probably like didn't want to mess around, and that's why they did the full on port
Right.
with you.
Right. Yeah, because I was even having trouble with the pick line, you know, that I had done for the 6 weeks, because again, my veins are just so small, and is what it is. I have baby
I had
veins.
bad veins too, actually.
Yeah.
Every time I go to get blood, they're like, I'm like, you need your most valuable person here to stick my veins, because I don't want people fishing and digging, or I will pass out. So
Yeah.
I had
That's the
Guillain-Barré syndrome,
thing.
though, so mine are kind of blown all in my arms, because I had pick lines here, plasmapheresis line, all kinds of stuff. So it's hard though.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's
But
probably
they're
why.
amazing over there. I mean, Malucha and gosh, that is so, I can't believe I can't think of their names right now. Um uh anyway, they just like can always get a needle in there. It was me, my body, you know, that was collapsing. The vein would collapse, but they could always get one in there. And over here, no way. Oh my gosh. I mean, ugh, nobody can. It's a skill set they have in Tijuana that they just definitely do not have here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the quality, people are like, it's a common question I get whenever people are on the phone and they're like, okay, Mexican clinics. They're like, so is it an American doctor at a Mexican clinic? I'm like, no, they're
No.
Mexican doctors. And just because they're from Mexico doesn't mean they're not trained. They're actually like very smart and very capable. Just like if you were to travel to any other country and go for medical care. But I mean, there is a bit of a stigma there, but it's pretty amazing though, when people actually go that I've talked to that were skeptical initially, just hearing like that mind shift change, like, wow, the care there, like nowhere near here in the States. Like the the relationships you even have with a doctor. Like no doctor is going to call you from their cell phone, text you. I mean, unless you've created like a family doctor that you're very close to, but like oncologists or anything like that, you know, it's not that personable, not that level of care. And that's, I mean, it's not just San Diego Clinic, like a lot of facilities, you know, they're very personal, but those smaller, more intimate facilities like San Diego Clinic, it creates that more personal relationship because it's just like that one-on-one with that doctor, which has its pros and cons. I have people all the time that like, oh, I don't want, you know, one or two doctors looking over me. I want a big facility. Well, great. That's for you because like San Diego Clinic, they don't have the bells and whistles, like, you know, the chefs making the meals and
Right.
lodging in house. I mean, it's a small doctor's office, you know, facility that you go to. That's the way I relate it to, but it doesn't mean that it's not as valuable as another. And a lot of people are like, I've never even heard of this facility. Why don't I hear of it? And I'm like, they don't put like a lot of, you know, mass marketing campaigns out there. It's a lot of word of mouth for San Diego Clinic. So,
Yeah. But, you know, I think on the meal thing, so we were at the Dally Suites and there were 3 other people there that were getting the meal things. And you know what? They weren't eating them. They were not eating them.
yeah.
One was there and oh, and I felt so bad for her because she was not getting better. If anything, she might have been getting worse, but she'd been going to this other clinic for I think 2 months at that point that we met her, which was like kind of later in my treatment. And you know, we just didn't ever see her because she would go to the clinic and then she'd come back and just basically be in bed. But she had these like pre-made chia pudding things and oatmeal thing, you know, little bowls, and they looked really, really gross, and I don't think I'd have eaten them either. But the other thing about that personal touch, every single week that I was there, at least one time, either Dr. Mancia or Dr. Munoz himself came to the apartment where I was at to check on me. I mean, who does that? And there was never an extra charge for that. They drove me to the hospital. They picked me up from the hospital, came, like I said, came and checked on me. Dr. Mancia walked, and he's such a gentleman. Oh my gosh, I just love him so much. He puts my arm in his, you know, my hand in his, and walks me down the block to go get CAT scans. And there, a CAT scan, $45 cash. Can you imagine? I mean, it's what a difference it is, but everything was perfect. I mean, I cannot think of anything I would have changed at all. And they give you coffee or water, or whatever, you know, there in the clinic, but it's like this family reunion every day.
So what did you do for meals there? Did you end up making them in the apartments and stuff?
We did, yeah. Or going out, there was plenty of amazing places very close, and we'd go across the street to get the incredible street tacos, or we would go over to the market, you know, like the 2 blocks away, and get just about anything that you wanted to eat there. But we would go, we'd either walk to Walmart and get stuff to make, you know, in the apartment. My mom really did all the cooking and she's an awesome cook. I just was not feeling well that whole trip. Pardon me. But there was where we got to know them, a couple of little street vendors with the fruit stands. And they're so generous and so kind. And I remember one time I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Oh, I asked him in Spanish, of course, que es ese?" And he peeled this thing and cut a piece and gave it to me, and we would go see them just about every day. And it just,
The
like I
food
said,
is
like
really
family.
good there. We eat out when we're there. So, I mean, they have a lot of health conscious places too. We actually created a guide and I typed up, you know, some places that you can shop from and places that you eat. Like I like Alma Verde. It's a kind of like a chain in Mexico, but it's like a health conscious chain. So they have like all kinds of health conscious food. But I was just curious. Some people they find a catering service. I did find one in like San Diego that will actually cater like health conscious meals, and some people buy that or they'll just cook there. Usually they cook there, but I was curious. There are some questions here. So some people were asking like, what are the cost of treatments there? So do you know like the roundabout cost that you paid? I know like an estimation I can give to.
Right. So it was $6,000 a week. And that included everything. That included the supplements, the infusions, walking me wherever I need to go. I mean, not everybody's going to need all that stuff, but they didn't charge me any extra for that. But then when we paid 2 weeks at a time, it went down to 55, which that may seem like a horrible amount, but you know what? It's less than I would have paid over here. And, and I'm healthy, no side effects.
Yeah, usually I tell people around like 45,
Well,
including.
mine might have been a little bit more.
Yeah,
I don't
probably
know.
so.
Mine, because mine was intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But good. And then somebody said, I'm sure insurance doesn't pay any part of it. Yeah, unfortunately not. Insurance does not recognize alternative medicine really in general. Even like the naturopaths I go to, or even some functional doctors, I always have to pay out of pocket. There are some health shares. Like I know like Samaritan Ministry is one that I've talked to some people that they were able to get up to $35,000, $40,000 covered for going to a facility. And some people, like one guy I was talking to, he was able to get covered after he found out he had cancer. I haven't talked to them over the phone in person, but I need to collect more information about that. And there is one facility that we visited when we were in Tijuana, that is able to take private insurance plans, and he runs them for reimbursement. So some people are getting covered up to 80-90% reimbursed through their insurance because they have like an international plan. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. He's like an integrative doctor that specializes in oncology in Mexico. So if you're curious about that, I can go back and comment on this post and give you my link, and we can discuss some options. That was for Stephanie Sherrill that commented. Taryn said, thank you. This is so informative. You're such an inspiration, Rhonda. Tahana said, increase iodine, just doing it orally is not good enough. You have to
Put it on your hands. Do the iodine on the palms of your hands, and it will, you'll absorb it.
I didn't know that. Usually
Yep.
I do.
Yep. Yeah, just right on your hands, but get a good iodine. But yeah, and what's cool about it is when you put it on your hand and you start rubbing it, watch it, your body, you'll absorb it in there and it won't even be left red. I'm serious. Try it.
My doctor, my biological dentist usually does like the 30-second test. And if your body absorbs it like within 30 seconds, that means like you're efficient. So that's one way that they said. They also said, start eating iodine rich and sulfur rich foods, garlic, onions, veggies. Oh, and iodine kills all cancers without the radiation. Somebody else said $45 CAT scan. Wow, that's amazing. Hi from New York. Hi, Ted. Does most insurance cover? No, unfortunately, Kimberly, they do not. It's good to know the cost. And somebody else said, would love to know which ones to do reimbursement. I'll take a few more questions if anybody has any more questions, because we're going to be wrapping it up here. We're hitting the hour. So if anybody would like to share anything to ask Rhonda during this time, please let us know. If not, Rhonda will be sharing her contact information to where you guys can connect. Also, she's available on Facebook. I'm sure she wouldn't mind some new Facebook friends to connect and share y'all's journeys with each other. It's always good to connect with individuals that are going through something similar. Global Healing. Yeah, I know Global Healing. They're actually based out of Houston here. My friend Shannon actually homeschools their kids, or used to. So
well, that's awesome. Well, I'm writing my book, How Cancer Saved My Life. And it's going to be like everything really, really in depth. And the foods that I eat, I'm big on cruciferous vegetables. I do take DIM, which is a natural,
it's like an active component. I know that in vegetables, and it helps remove the estrogen out of your body.
Estrogen blocker. I like estrogen, and my mind, I couldn't pull it. Yeah. And because they were wanting me to take this horrible prescription estrogen blocker, and I asked the doctor, I told the doctor, I said, now you know the side effects, right? And she's, well, all prescription drugs have side effects. I said, well, this one has really horrible side effects, which includes like 80% of the people are going to develop osteoporosis. Well, that's just part of, and it's down there. And I'm like, I just, no, but I do take DIM along with, a lot of other supplements.
Raw carrots good too. I do DIM and then raw carrot salads. So you can just do like shred raw carrot and do apple cider vinegar and a little bit of lemon, a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper. And that's supposed to help remove excess estrogen as well. Because honestly, I believe like estrogen dominance, I mean, it already causes like PCOS and like all kinds of other things. But it does play a big role into breast cancers. So that's my little tidbit of what I've been studying on my own.
Awesome. Well, not everybody's going to want to take DIM though. And I wouldn't want to recommend like anything to anybody because like me
Everybody needs to
personally,
connect with their own naturopath or provider about like what
right.
supplements.
Yeah, because my unique deal is, and I have to like think about it. I'm, estrogen receptor positive, progesterone receptor positive, and HER2 negative, which is kind of a good and kind of a bad. I'd rather be HER2 negative instead of HER2 positive, but I have a unique combination of issues. So what's working for me may not work for the next person,
Yeah, and our bodies are so different too. Our body is just on even
Right.
like cellular level on we all have the gene markers like MTHFR, MTRR, COMT, MAOA,
Yep.
MAOB, all these play into like methylating, detoxing, how we process things, different pathways in the body and so forth. But if
Right.
anybody is wanting to connect with Rhonda, I'm sure she'll comment on this thread too and share her information. Feel free to friend her. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. I see that Adi dropped my call link. So if anybody has any further questions about alternative treatment facilities in Mexico, I'm always here to connect and help as much as possible, share my little tidbits of the information that I know. I see somebody actually texted me. I don't have your number saved. So whoever that was, hi, they actually are asking about this clinic right now. So I'm always willing to share my cell phone. We can text back and forth. I can share you pictures, videos of going there. If Rhonda has any content of being there, I'm sure she'll share it to you as well. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys have a happy holiday. And stay tuned because we'll be sharing some more information of more live events that we'll be hosting in this Facebook. And Rhonda, I will send you the recording as well of this live event. So
Awesome. And I'll share pictures of Dr. Munoz Mancia, like everybody. I'll be happy to do that with anybody.
yeah, absolutely. Even share in the Facebook group or comment on this thread. You can share it too as well. So
Oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. It was a wonderful experience. I would totally recommend it to anybody. And Peyton, you are an absolute angel. I appreciate you, facilitating this. And if anybody, I would be more than happy to do whatever I can to guide you to anything over there. It's a wonderful place.
well, thank you, Rhonda. Thank you for connecting with me today. And I hope you have a blessed holiday and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.